Hi everybody, welcome to Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. I'm your host, Dominic Izzuti. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get a quick take on Denver City Council President Albus supporting a proposal that would create a supervised medical injection facility. According to CBS4, healthcare workers would be on staff while individuals inject heroin and other drugs in hopes of reducing the number of overdose deaths. Ed Sealiver from Denver Business Journal, this sounds like a controversial idea, but on the heels of the headlines of opioid crisis across the United States, maybe it's a wacky idea that we need to consider. Your thoughts?
Well, look, I know you always call me your guy on Capitol Hill, but I also cover healthcare, and I got to tell you, I have not heard a medical professional talking about the need for something like this. In fact, much of the need to address, to stop people from becoming addicted to prescription opioids is couched in the terms of these opioids are a gateway drug to heroin. And I realize that heroin is not as deadly as, say, fentanyl, an even bigger killer in the opioid field. But if you're looking to stop the opioid crisis, tacitly condoning this movement up, this use of heroin doesn't seem like a way to do it, especially because you're couching it in these terms of wanting to save people's lives rather than wanting to help people recover from this addiction and lead better lives.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School, one of our two esteemed lawyers here at the table today. Does a proposal like this come with legal problems for a city that, I don't know, whether, as Ed said, tacitly condones it or outrightly condones it because of this? I'm not familiar with the legal situation. What do you think?
Well, maybe, but it's sort of the same issue that you could raise with, excuse me, needle exchanges, which some cities do, and federal law enforcement seems to mostly leave those alone, even though you could argue technically it's a violation. My inclination is like Ed's, which is if you're going to be destroying your life through irresponsible behavior, maybe you can do that, but the government doesn't owe you, facilitating that. It's like you can commit adultery, but the government shouldn't be running safe adultery hotels for that to happen. But needle exchange, similar kind of thing, has apparently really cut the rate of AIDS infection by intravenous drug users. And since we do, for all practical purposes, have a mostly single-payer socialist system of medicine, that saves the taxpayers money when fewer dope fiends get AIDS and end up at the public hospitals. And the same thing may be true here. This kind of program has existed in Canada. I think the Denver City Council should study that intensively, but it might be something that, repellent as it is in theory, might make actually sense in harm reduction, which is the theme of that approach.
Craig Silverman, attorney with Silverman & Levis, also a talk show host on KNUS every Saturday morning. What do you think of the proposal from City Council President Brooks? It, again, sounds pretty controversial. It is controversial, but is it something that we need if we're in such a crisis mode when it comes to opioids?
It's so sad that it might have come to this. This drug, heroin, opioids, it's so sad, and I wish there were more education on, hey, you take heroin, you're going to get high, and then you're going to get sick. And then you're going to be chasing that one high. And it's just a problem that we thought had gone away, or it was confined to Ohio, West Virginia, Appalachia. But it's here, and we need to confront it. The war on drugs has not been effective. People are searching for other solutions. And so many people are dying of overdose deaths. If life is precious, then you're balancing how can we save lives versus are we facilitating something? And I think the better argument is to save lives.
Mary McCarthy, Denver Bureau Chief from Feature Story News. I always mix those up, I apologize. When you see this proposal from Albus Brooks, do you think he has the political capital to get it through a Denver City Council?
No, I think it's a terrific proposal, terrific discussion to get going, especially in a city, a state that is on the forefront of drug policy with our legal marijuana, but absolutely not. You can hear it here that people are extremely close-minded to any real solutions to this issue, sadly. All we'd have to do is read about a country like Portugal, for example, which when it was hit by a drug crisis, that we are approaching that with the opioid crisis here, and thank goodness eyes are finally opening to that. What did Portugal do? They legalized all drugs. They provided programs like this. Now they have the lowest use across Western Europe of hard drugs by a landslide. So kudos to Albus Brooks for getting a discussion going. We're far from reaching any real center like what he's talking about. But I'd like to get in there too that when we're talking about heroin addicts, they're people who get started with painkillers, with opioids. A lot of them are athletes, high school athletes. These are middle class families. It's a tragedy for anyone, but these are our families. These are, I don't know who you know, but I know a lot of people who've dealt with this. I've been reporting on it in Colorado for a couple of years. They're not dope fiends. They're not people we should stigmatize in any way. These are people who are taking medicine given by the doctors that have been pushed by the pharmaceutical industry for many, many years in Colorado, around the country. So let's stop stigmatizing young people who got addicted to drugs that were handed to them by their doctors and who ended up taking heroin, and let's talk about some real solutions like Albus Brooks is doing.
That is all the time we have now for Colorado Insight postgame. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Thank you very much for logging on, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in for Colorado Insight postgame.